Welcome to the Silk Veil Challenge. This one's about self-love. And I've been thinking often about how self-love is a challenge. And I was like, oh, it's not a challenge. It should be fun and it should, be easy to slip into it. And sometimes it is very easy to slip into the self-love, and other times it is so freaking difficult to love this corporeal being and love the knot of experiences and trauma and isolation and connective tissue and individuality and just everything. Sometimes it's a difficult journey to learn to love who you are, faults and all. And so I am hosting this Silk Veil Self-Love Challenge this week because it's important for us to look at this stuff. It's really important for us to look at how we truly come to ourselves with a whole and full sense of being. And so self-love, I believe, is this key, is this crux point, is this entry level into what real, turned on, tuned in living is. It's the key to the radical actions we want to take to transform the world. It's the key to alchemy, to understanding ourselves, to awakening empathy, to invoking equality, to understanding other humans and other beings as beings, rather than only looking out at the world for us, and to take time to love ourselves so much that we can then understand how we look at others and can facilitate and allow for them to love themselves. It's a journey. Self-love is a freaking journey. So this challenge is to help you awaken yourself to what your capacity for self-love is. This one's 3 days. Okay, we're getting into sensuality, play, a sense of curiosity, and joy, and helping to awaken that joy, however small, whatever nugget you have, and really moving it through the rest of the body. This is deeply related to the flow arts practices I do, the pussy magic burlesque that I practice, to the dancing, to the movement, to the self-growth, to the alchemy, to the living life as a human. I recognize that I'm a very unique human, and that's probably why you're following and watching this, is that I'm a strange one. I'm fascinating, and I am strangely very productive and creative. And I have allowed myself to be magnetic and to live out loud for so long. I remember learning to love myself from very early ages, right? But as we all do, but especially in high school, learning to live artfully and unabashedly do what I wanted, to read the books that I wanted, that my Christian upbringing did not love me to read, like books on runes and Wicca and history and alchemy, and to look at like the Tao and Eastern philosophy, as well as to become kind of fascinated with hippie culture of the 70s, with counter culture and revolution and counter-revolution and philosophical thought outside of traditional philosophy, looking at feminist thought and unification of human, of sci-fi and dreaming of utopias and bringing that in, and allowing myself to be the weirdo that I knew I was inside, to let myself dance and kick and leap and run down the hallways of my high school and be myself, to make those faces, to pretend that I was a fairy at the age of 16 unabashedly, and just do it, and recognize that made me feel both self-conscious and kind of like embarrassed and full body flushed, but also free. I felt the freedom in that moment, and that was a huge self-love moment where I learned that I could be myself and allow for myself to be crazy and weird and not like other people expected. I wear clothes from thrift stores. I've always worn clothes from thrift stores, but I would pick like the crazy patterns from, the 70s and the 80s, and I would wear full sequins during the day and crazy big floor length voluminous skirts and like 2 or 3 of them kind of in a Victorian style. I'd wear corsets to school, right? And like these things aren't, I'm sure a lot of you have done them too because you're creative people. What I'm trying to say is that by allowing myself to be myself, and my friends did the same, we allowed for ourselves to be ourselves and find this authenticity and this self-love that I speak so much to. And so I'm this human who am so blessed and privileged to have had an upbringing where I was encouraged to be myself for the most part until I, was wanted to like go follow this career or do this thing. And then I was like, no, I can be myself. And I fought back against it no matter what I did. And it's helped me understand the transformational capacity for self-love, through all of these times, through the times when I've lost it and really been self-loathing and really been really dark and deep. So self-love has the capacity to transform, and I'm here to help you access it, to deepen it, to grow in it, right? And maybe your self-love's a little kernel, and some days you can't find it. Like today, I'm having a really hard time finding my self-love, whereas yesterday I was feeling it flow. And so it varies from day to day, and the more that we can create these practices and create these tools in our toolbox to find our way back, to ease ourselves down, to find and gain perspective, the easier we're going to have in this life and this time. So I invite you to join me on this 3-day journey. We start tomorrow on the 22nd, or the 23rd rather, but you can start it whenever. Like this is here for you. It's public and free on my Patreon. Please go to my Patreon. I am an artist working in this pandemic still, and even out of the pandemic, your support for what I do and your support for me being my weirdo self and living out loud and not having an office job allows me to inspire you and take the time to make this kind of social content, to host the retreats that I host, to build the online programs, to put the content onto my Patreon, to host the classes that physically get you into these practices, to formulate these challenges, to pay my assistants, to pay people for their expertise in video editing and photo and music editing, right? This is how I also practice self-love, is by knowing my genius, knowing what I love, what I'm good at, and then engaging in those, and then allowing for the abundance to flow out to my community for those who are good at that, right? I love myself, I love them, and can flow it out this way. So I would love for you to support me. Find it on Patreon. It's free, you don't have to donate anything, but at least follow me and consider supporting in some manner, because that is love from me and I appreciate that. And I'm also committed to activating your own self-love, activating your creativity and your sensuality and giving back to you. This is the Wheel of Abundance. So thank you for listening. I'm gonna do a little dance for you to cap this off as an exciting factor and a beginning. Now this song is called Love Me by DJ Taz, a good friend of mine. Find him on Spotify. Love me. This is what we do. Just a few moments of moving can help unlock that self-love in a really big way. So please join me, take the time to move. You don't need a silk veil. It's weighted, but you can. You can use a curtain or a towel or just something to get you moving outside your flow. If you have a hoop or a poi, whatever you got. But the silk brings us to our sensuality and brings us to our knowing and our feeling. So just give yourself some time to flow through these things, because you're worth it. And that's why we're doing this. So join me, post her on Patreon, join my mailing list, and you'll be emailed the links every day. You can save them, do them later, or you can do them with us. Post here on social media and tag me, and I will reshare you on the stories so we can see your glory. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you soon.